Gavanen. Welcome to the Tolkien Lore Channel. I'm the Tolkien Geek, and in this video I kind of want to give my thoughts about the announced Tolkien biopic that is supposed to come out in the near future. I don't know a whole lot of details right now. I just catch snatches of news here and there. Picked up a couple things along the way, but I just want to talk generally about the idea of having a biopic of Tolkien and that sort of thing. Just kind of the general broad brush type idea. For one thing, I kind of share Tolkien's view on the idea of biography as a method of understanding people. And Tolkien's view was basically that, if you're trying to find out about my biography because it's inherently interesting, I find that odd. But if you're trying to find out more about my life so as to gain more insight into my writing, then you're probably going to go off the wrong track a little bit. Now, I think in some ways, Tolkien might have been just a little too extreme there, because I think there are things that you could look at in Tolkien's life that do help get an idea of what was going on in his head when he was writing the stories. For example, I've mentioned in a couple of videos before that you've got the war aspect of the Silmarillion is kind of similar to, World War One. Is that, because he drew on his World War One experience, or is that because he had just a general idea of what he wanted before World War One even happened? Who knows? But it's hard to believe that his experience in World War One wouldn't have colored the way he describes the war in the Silmarillion. So I mean, it's still, I think, interesting. But I do agree with Tolkien to a large extent in that you're not going to learn a lot about what an author is writing just from studying his history. And even if you do, most of what you're going to learn is going to be from really discrete points in time. It's not like you're going to get, if you read an entire biography or watch an entire biopic, you're not going to find most of that terribly relevant. And even the ones that you do find relevant, the relevance is not always going to be clear. So, to the extent that they're doing a biopic, I hope they're not going to focus it on things that they think play directly into the fiction that Tolkien wrote, because I think that would be a mistake. I mean, if you're going to do a biopic, do it because Tolkien himself is an interesting person. Now, from what I've heard, the biopic is supposed to focus a lot on the early years. Now, I don't know how true that is. I mean, it's still in the very early stages from what I understand, but what I've gathered so far is basically that the biopic is focusing on kind of his graduate education, his early years in the war, his marriage to Edith, and I don't think it's supposed to go very far into his later life. So I don't know how far it's going to get in terms of, is it going to take us all the way up through the writing of the Lord of the Rings? Is it even going to get us to the Hobbit? I don't know that yet. And there might be more news out there that I haven't seen. So, I mean, if there is, then maybe I'm just missing something. But as far as the acting choices and the director and all that stuff, I've seen a couple of names thrown around. I'm not familiar with any of them, so I have really no opinion as far as that goes. I will say this. I mean, to the extent that they're going to do this at all, I hope they do it in a way that is as accurate as possible. Because, I mean, so many historical movies, and, not just biopics, but, like recently we've had the movie Dunkirk come out, and, other things like that. So many historical movies are dramatized way too much, and you miss a lot of the real life, and part of that is because real life can be kind of humdrum. But if you're going to do a biopic, then the point of the biopic is to give us a real view into this person's life. If you're not going to stick to the real story, then why are you doing it? It doesn't make any sense. So I hope they at least stay true to the real events in Tolkien's life and don't change it just to make it more interesting. Because if Tolkien is not interesting in and of himself, then just don't make a movie about him. So that's kind of my initial thoughts on the biopic. As I learn more, I may have another video on additional information that comes to my attention. But for now, I just kind of wanted to put this out there just to give an idea, and because it's kind of fresh right now, just to share my view on what I'm hoping they're doing and what I hope they're not doing. And just basically, I'm hoping they don't go to extremes either on the end of trying to basically have it explain his fiction, or on the other end of the spectrum, trying to make his life more interesting than it was. So, and I will mention one thing too. I hope they actually do kind of get into his love for languages, because reading Tolkien, reading his works, reading his nonfiction have actually given me a little more interest in languages than I had originally as well. So I hope they actually do get into that a little bit, just because personally I would find that somewhat satisfying. But other than that, I'll leave it here for now. Let me know what your thoughts about the biopic are. Let me know what you're hoping for, what you're afraid of, in the comments below. And until next time, I'm the Tolkien Geek signing out for the Tolkien Lore channel. Namaste.